Hi friends, I'm Smooth, your host. Welcome to the Destination for Innovation series brought to you by the City of Bakersfield and Green Tech Network. Today we're in beautiful San Diego at Intersolar North America Energy Storage. North America, we have a special guest, John. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Hey, it's a beautiful day, beautiful place. It's amazing what you guys are doing. Excited to talk about that. Could you share a little bit about yourself and maybe something that your associates or the world know?
What the world doesn't know about me. Name's John Zahurancik, and I lead the Americas region for Fluence. We're in pro football playoff season, so maybe a lot of people don't know I cheer for the Indianapolis Colts. Never lived in Indianapolis, but I did a lot of work there and became a fan. So fortunately, they're out of the playoffs, but I'm still watching.
Yeah, absolutely. So where would you say your journey began in this space, in the green tech space?
I joined AES in 2000. AES is a large power producer and started to get involved in looking at alternative energy. I was working in a business that was focused on retail power, and we started to offer low carbon options in retail power. So that's really where I got started in this.
Fast forward to today, what's your role? What does your day-to-day look like?
Sure. So today I lead Fluence in the Americas region, the US and then all of the associated countries of the Americas. We sell very large scale batteries. If you want to think about it as Home Depot sized batteries, and those batteries make the power grid work more efficiently, lower the cost of it, and lower the emissions of the battery. So we supply a full integrated battery system that acts like a power plant, but with no emissions.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys are involved in some major projects and you've been in it for a while. You have some struggles and sort of like things you've witnessed in the industry that you would like to share, that maybe some wins that came along with it as well?
Well, I mean, when we started on this, we were working on technologies that kind of were in this holy grail mentality. People knew it would be nice if we had this, but you didn't quite know if it would ever turn into anything real. So I would say, one of the struggles was taking technologies that existed in other areas, batteries and power conversion and controls, and bringing them into the power sector in a way that worked at the same level of quality and responsiveness of traditional technologies, mostly thermal generation at that time. So there was one time after we started doing these battery systems, that I used to tell people I was a unicorn farmer, because we had built large scale battery systems, but nobody really believed they existed. And so just the perseverance to know if there's a better mousetrap, sometimes it takes a little while to catch on, but you've got to be persistent in that.
Absolutely. Well, it's a different world today and we have a lot to look forward to. Would you have some advice for those in the industry, maybe policy, maybe the city of Bakersfield that you would like to share?
Yeah, well, I think, we have an opportunity to reimagine the way we think about power and energy. And we've been doing that bit by bit over the last few years. It isn't that long ago that we thought renewables were kind of a fringe technology. We saw them exist in some places, but we didn't really have the confidence that they were going to be a main source of energy. I think today, we look all around and it's become the dominant form of new energy that's coming to market. Almost all of the new projects that are being built and financed are some form of renewable power, and it's the cheapest form of electricity. So I think that's a transition that took place relatively quickly, honestly, to go from something that we thought we had to subsidize to something that we now see as the lowest cost of energy. I think as we live in that future, we have to look at what are the other complementary technologies that we need to have an efficient, reliable, clean power grid. And that's where energy storage fits. We have clean sources of energy. They don't generate at all times and in all places. We need to complement that with something that's firm and flexible. We can store the energy, bring it to the time and the locations that we need, augment our transmission grids, augment our whatever natural resources we can take the most advantage of. So I think for policymakers and others, think about, it's not so much how have we always done it, but how can we do it now? And how do we meet the goals that we have now of, low impact, low cost, and high reliability? I think that's really the goal. And storage fits in that, renewables fit in that, other technologies that are emerging fit into that.
Yeah, you mentioned reimagining, and this next part of the conversation is about casting away some of the roadblocks and some of the hurdles and thinking about what are the possibilities and what would we like to see, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so is what's some low-hanging fruit people could bite into, the world could bite into to make it a better place?
Yeah, well, I think we're seeing that scaling up relatively quickly. We're seeing solar and wind projects get bigger and bigger. We're now starting to see some offshore wind projects that are getting very big. So the possibility of creating more and more of our energy from renewable sources is emerging every day. I think we're now seeing storage projects get larger and larger. We went from doing projects that on average were maybe 10 megawatts in scale to now our average is maybe 200 megawatts in scale. And those are really true power plant replacements. And we can put them in the spots that we need exactly to help support the power grid. So to me, that's a bit of the low-hanging fruit. The federal government has given us some incentives in the form of the Inflation Reduction Act. I think getting those fully enacted so that we can transact around them is a propellant to move this forward to a new scale. So doing what we've already proven can be done at a bigger scale is kind of low-hanging fruit in my mind.
Yeah, it's absolutely exciting. Scaling up is an interesting time, perfect time to do it. In terms of some of the bigger challenges that we face as a world, as a society, maybe as an industry, what should we tackle and not ignore as well?
Yeah, well, I think, as we put a different type of infrastructure in place, then the question becomes, how do we use that? How do we get the most out of it, right? So these investments that we make in energy and power, they tend to be, almost generational investments. They're intended to be around for 10, 20, 30 years. We need to think about the commitments we made, and then do we as a society absorb the most benefit out of them? So there's a lot of new opportunities to take and control the way we manage the grid using advanced technologies, not just turning something on and off, but are we using it in the best way possible? Self-sensing technologies, things that are much more aware of what's going on at all times and can dispatch themselves to their best output. So I think those are things that are a little more complicated. They require a little more communication between all of the pieces of what's on the grid, but they drive in the direction of where we need to go in terms of a much more intelligent power system. We rely on electricity for so much of what we do in our life, and I think in the US especially, we sort of take it for granted that this works whenever we need it. And even from a cost standpoint, it's a relatively low cost of electricity compared to much of the world. But there's still opportunities to make that more efficient, make it more reliable, make it more intelligent. So I think that's harder. I think some of the tools that we need to do that as we continue to scale up wind, solar, energy storage, any of the technologies that we use to power, there's a big push to make sure the supply chain that supports that is diverse. It's not a supply chain that's just limited to one part of the world. We saw during COVID and some of the things that we're seeing now with the Ukrainian war, with disruptions in transportation through the Middle East and those areas, things can happen that make it difficult to continue to do business as usual. And so having the ability to have some of that supply chain located in the United States, in Europe, in addition to Asia, I think that's a very powerful thing. It takes longer to do. It takes a longer commitment. The seeds of that have been put in place with some of the domestic content requirements of the Inflation Reduction Act. We've got to follow through and make sure we take advantage of those opportunities for investment to create infrastructure, factories, and a supply chain that supports this full future that we're expecting to come. Today, we're supplying a lot of it out of just a few places in the world. If we want to realize it on the scale that we're talking about, it can't just be produced all in one place. So it's not about abandoning that place, but it's about making sure that we bring the supply chain closer to some of the areas of demand. And I think that's opportunities for jobs, it's opportunities for reinvestment in communities that historically have been energy communities and have workforces that are looking for something to do as we move towards the energy of the future.
Absolutely, so well said. I love, deploy and scale up and then diversify where you're getting your supply chain. Very, very important. From, community perspective, what role do you see community playing? You mentioned community in your answer just now. I'm curious how you would see that playing a role in making all this happen.
I think, communities have a big role in a lot of ways because, these sites and facilities, whether we're talking about bringing new power sites, or we're talking about bringing new manufacturing sites, has an impact on the community, not just in the creation of jobs, but in the impact that it has on the broader community. So I think making sure we ask intelligent questions about where these things are located, how they're located. We don't create obstacles that are, unable to be overcome. You take advantage of things that have improved. So there's a lot of traditional thermal power plants that are being shut down. As we shut those down, those are natural locations for us to put energy storage or the technologies of the future. Take advantage of the fact that people have been accustomed to that being an industrial site. We've built the power infrastructure to be at that location, so we can kind of reuse the investments of the past generations there and, make that something that's a relatively simple transition. So that's one thing I would say in the way a community can come around this. The other way is to continue to express interest in some of these things. I think having reliable electricity, having it be cleaner every year, and having it continue to be affordable affects everyone's quality of life. When we look at studies from around the world and what has the biggest impact, you can see a very direct correlation between electricity consumption, health, educational achievement, and prosperity. The countries that have longer lives, that have higher levels of educational achievement, tend to be related to countries that have clean, stable, reliable, affordable power. And so I think that's some part of an equitable energy transition, is ensuring that we take advantage of ways to create electricity that are cost-effective, clean, and serve our communities well. So those are some of the ideas, I think. And it's not any one company. I think it's a universe of companies associated with a universe of users that move this in the right direction.
Right, yeah, sort of product market fit for companies and initiatives on a community level. A lot of opportunity there. When you're looking back in your legacy as a result of all the work you're doing now, what would you like to see happen in the world in the future?
I'm excited that we've been able to bring some new ideas forward and take them from not just a presentation on paper, but through a demonstration phase, proving out that this is something real, and then finding ways to make it work on a bigger scale at a more cost-effective manner. So I think the thing that I'm excited about is taking these ideas and turning them into something real that exists in the world and that's providing benefits to people. And so that's fun. That's the team we've built at Fluence. People are energized by the idea of you actually can apply yourself to something and make a difference in the world that you serve. We can make a difference in cost, the quality of energy, and how reliable it is. And we've seen that happen in just a few short years. I'm expecting to continue to do that going forward.
Wow, it's been really incredible what's been going on at Fluence. And you were telling me earlier about how you entered into the business. When you look at, going back to communities and equity and just energy transition, do you see that being possible? And if so, how can we involve more people?
Yeah, I do. And the United States has its own challenges of equity in different communities, both the environment and what resources it provides to us, where it's located relative to other cities and other things. But then as we look around the world, Fluence doesn't operate just in the United States, but operates around the world. We also see, vast differences there. But pretty much everywhere we've gone, and I've seen this in my career, is finding a way to bring, lower cost, high quality, clean power generally correlates with an improved sense of community life, whether that translates into jobs or economic activity or education. It's different in each place. But I think that's a fundamental infrastructure for improving people's lives. And so when we think about equity, the more we can make those, a starting point for all communities, I think the better we do on equity.
Right. Yeah, that's a really interesting point, that the foundational impacts that clean energy on a community level can have to advancing a better lifestyle for those in that community.
Yeah, you just think about, reliable power allows you to have refrigeration. It allows you to have communication. It allows you to build businesses around it, if that's industry or if it's another kind of business. So, like I said, in many places in the United States, we take that for granted. I think there's some places that are more remote, or they have weather challenges or the other things that come up. But for the most part, we take it for granted. I think the bigger challenge we have is it priced the best we can price it? Is it delivered with the highest quality? Is it as clean as we can make it? Do we take advantage of the resources that really exist to do those things, to try to work on those three fronts? I think that is at the heart of equity.
Absolutely. Well, I think you guys are doing a great job. amazing to watch the journey over at Fluence. I appreciate your time meeting with you today. Great rest of the show.
Thank you very much. It's great.
Thank you for joining us. Be sure to connect, collaborate, and create with John, and we will see you soon.